Must-see inspirational movie that got me through the lowest of lows in this busy world. We often get lost in the minutiae of our daily routines. We need an adventure once in a while, a journey to follow our dreams to awaken the courage and passion that has long been dormant within us. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty takes you on a deeply moving journey of awakening the heart and soul to experience the excitement and possibilities of life. In this journey, you will witness the birth of courage and the true meaning of life. If you often feel confused and anxious about your life in the present moment, please be patient and read it. It will help you a lot. The story revolves around the main character, Walter Mitty. He lives a quiet life. It's like a pool of water without any fluctuations. He works in the photo management department of Life magazine. Walter is a dreamer. He was a dreamer, a purely imaginative person, always imagining magnificent adventures. But in real life, he's timid and cowardly. It takes him a long time to even think about sending his divorced co-worker a smiley face on a social networking site. When he finally got up the courage to press send, he realized he couldn't say hello to his co-worker. He called customer service. They said his profile was incomplete. Like what interesting places he's been to in his life, what he's done in his life, and he didn't have any of those. While customer service was still talking about the rules, Walter was plunged into an adventure scenario of his own making. Walter turns into a superhero and rushes into a residential building to save people, including the three-legged dog that his female co-worker owns. Then Walter says what he really wants to say and do in front of his co-worker. Then the vision he speaks out about the attitude he aspires to in life.
I just live by the ABCs. Adventurous, brave, creative.
That's everything I want in a man.
The voice of customer service brings Walter back to reality. It was almost time to go to work. Walter had no choice but to run to work first. Walter hangs up the phone and rushes to the office, only to hear that the magazine has been bought out, and that the magazine had been bought out and was putting out its last paper edition. They're going to start an online website. Walter was helpless to hear that, because for 16 years, he'd spent his days in an underground warehouse developing negatives sent in by the world's biggest contributing photographers. The online site doesn't need his kind of people anymore. He was about to be laid off. Famous photographer Sean Connor had sent the last of his negatives in just in time for this morning delivery, and he sent Walter a gift to thank him for 16 years of developing negatives without fail. When he opened the gift, he saw the motto of Life magazine. It's a line that all the staff have been proud of. Expand your horizons, break through the dangers, see the world, be there, be close to each other, feel the life. Sean says that negative number 25 of his shoot is the best picture he's ever taken in his life. He has suggested to the company's executives to use this photo as the cover of the last issue of the magazine. It's strange that Sean couldn't find negative 25 in the package. It's the best picture of the photographer's life. He can't afford to lose it. While Walter was wondering, he was called into a meeting with his co-workers. The executives have decided to use Sean's suggested photo number 25 for the cover of the last issue of the magazine. The new head of the company asked Walt for the photo in public. Walt had to lie and say that the negatives were being developed. He wanted to find out where Sean, the photographer, lived from his female co-worker, Cheryl, who he had a crush on. Because Cheryl was in charge of the packages sent by the photographer, unfortunately, he couldn't get any information about Sean at the moment. Walt had to develop the other negatives in the hope of finding a clue. One was of a part of an object, one was of a thumb, one was of a sea. The name of a ship was reflected in the sea, and with that clue, Cheryl immediately searched the internet on her cell phone. She had to pick up her son from the park. She invited Walter to join her. When Cheryl called to get Sean's address, Walter was skateboarding with Cheryl's son. It was Walter's only hobby. He won awards as a kid. When Cheryl got off the phone, I did some more Googling. I was able to determine that the ship was located in Greenland. This was a bit frustrating for Walter. He could barely afford the airfare to Greenland because he dug into his savings. Then Cheryl's ex-husband called. Walter looked at Cheryl, who walked away to answer the phone, and fell into his own beautiful fantasy.
I just want to be with you, you know?
Really?
Let's run away together. Let's make every moment count starting now.
Sweet.
Walter! Walter!
Yes, the incompetent was daydreaming again. During his last chat with Cheryl, he became adamant that he was going to find Sean, the photographer.
That song is about courage and going into the unknown. It's a cool song.
Back at the office, the supervisor is after Walt for the photo. Again, co-workers went through the office again. Sean hadn't sent the 25th negative. There's nothing we can do. He's got to find Sean. He picks up his briefcase. He walks. He runs slowly. It was the first time in his life that Walter had ever been out of town, running toward a step he'd never dared to take. The company's motto was literally underneath his feet. He bought a plane ticket to Greenland without a moment's hesitation, looking down on the earth from above. The view from the window was so beautiful, his heart was shone with a light. He wasn't long before Walter landed in a town with a waiting room no bigger than an airplane. He rented a car. He went to the bar. A tall man was singing his heart out. As soon as he buys a small bootleg, the singing drunk leans in. He was so drunk that he wanted Walter to sing. In the midst of all the pushing and shoving, Walter suddenly realized that it was the same thumb as in the photo. Walter invited the drunk to sit down and talk about the thumb, and in the course of the conversation, he learns that the big guy was a pilot. He sent Sean on a fishing boat the other day, and that the boat's comms were down. The only way to find out if Sean is still on board is to go to the boat and see for himself. It just so happens that Big Hank is flying a helicopter to deliver supplies to the crew in 5 minutes, and he can pick up Walt. Having said that, taking a big gulp of the rest of his oversized boot glass of booze, bracing himself against the wall and barely standing up, Walt was torn up inside. He wanted to go to Sean, but looking at the big man who was so drunk he was arguing with the dogs, he didn't want to die in the ocean. When Walter was torn, a familiar voice suddenly rang out from the bar stage behind him. He turned around and looked. It turned out to be Cheryl playing and singing. It was the same song that Cheryl had encouraged him to sing. Encouraged by the song, Walter ran towards the helicopter with determination under Cheryl's tender gaze. From the helicopter hovering in the air, he turns to look in the direction of the bar. Cheryl's silhouette was fading. It was another one of his fantasies, but this time, it's a fantasy that he's acting on. The light inside him grew a little brighter. The sun was beating down on his face. Looking at the sky, it was like nothing he'd ever seen before. The endless sea, the icebergs, the journey of a brave man had begun. Gradually, the sky begins to turn gray. The helicopter will soon reach the fishing boat. It's windy and rough out there, but the big man wants Walt to jump onto the boat.
Go, 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 go! Now!
It turns out he wants Walt to jump into the rubber boat on the left. Walt is struggling in the sea. The captain is telling him how to save himself. The lifeboat is trying to get closer, and that's when it happened. A shark spotted Walter, but the captain thought it was a pod of dolphins and told him not to be afraid. Walter was making friends with the dolphins in front of him.
Come here! Hey! Hey!
Okay, that's a shark.